Welcome everyone. In this video tutorial, we will see how to instrument NGINX for the case of non-Kubernetes environment, especially if the environment doesn't have the NGINX itself. Let's look at the deployment diagram or the solution diagram. NGINX will be deployed to a VM as a Dockerized container, which will be serving the request to the external world. And as a typical load balancer, it will cater the request to the backend application web services. Now, once we instrument the NGINX along with its functionality, it will also create the hotel traces for the incoming HTTP request, and then it will forward it to the Azure Traffic Collector service, which is listening on port 4317. The choice to deploy Azure Traffic Collector service and NGINX in the same host or not is left to the user. But please note that as a convenience, it's always recommended to host the Azure Traffic Collector service and NGINX within a same VPC. The choice of whether the Azure Traffic Collector service should be hosted in a separate VM is left to user. In that case, please note that Azure Traffic Collector service will be listening on port 4317 for the TCP connections, and the required security allowances should be given for the traffic collector to listen on 4317. Having said that, now let's go to creating the integration. Let's click on connect. Ensure that the instrumentation is being created in the same workspace where the target is also being created. Continue. Click on the infra. Give some optional note. Yes. Now this is the case that we are considering, NGINX not present. In a very high level, we are going to create the Dockerized NGINX and we are going to instrument the NGINX. We'll also have to note down this integration ID, which will be needed later. So now let's click on this help article. Yeah. So case 1, NGINX not present in my VM. The prerequisite is we need to have a VM, and in that VM we need to have Docker and Docker Compose available. Along with that, self-signed SSL certificate should be available. SSL certificate either could be self-signed or it could be vendor obtained. But yes, SSL certificate, pair of a key and certificate are necessary. First, let me log into the VM and let me make the environment clear. Yes. So first let me check whether I have the prereq or not. This is already my VM. Sudo docker. Yes, I do have Docker. And how about Docker Compose? Yes, I do have that as well. With respect to self-signed, I have two sample self-signed certificate and the key pair. These SSL certificates are necessary in the later step. That being said, let's jump to the steps now. Yes, SSH into VM and navigate to your working directory. We'll have to create the working directory Azure-ops, which I've already created. You can see here. The next step, create nginx.conf file with following content. Now first let me create a file called as nginx.conf. Yeah. For the content, we'll copy this and put it here. Just save this file once. Yeah, so I have saved the file, but if you observe the instruction, it clearly says replace your sensor ID field with the integration ID displayed in your NGINX integration page and replace IP address of traffic collector. So this is nothing but Azure Traffic Collector. Since I have chosen to deploy I have already deployed the Azure Traffic Collector in the same VM, it will be localhost. Now let's close this for a moment and we can get the integration ID and come back, edit the same configuration. Oops, sorry. There was some mess from my side. I've created with XONF. It should be CONF. Oh, sonf to nginx conf. Yep, via nginx.com. Sorry for the glitch. So here, as I said, I've already copied the integration ID, and upon clicking this, it says your sensor ID. This is something that I should be looking for. Your, yes, I got it. Your sensor ID. So what I need to do is I'll have to replace this with the actual integration ID. And also the second statement it said was replace IP address of traffic collector. Copy this and then search for IP address. Yeah, here I have. I'll have to replace this. Just this port, let's leave it as it is. I said that I have installed the Astra traffic collector service in my local host, so that's why the address will be either 127.0.0.1 or it could be localhost as well. Let's save this file now. Let's go to the next step. It says edit the nginx.conf created in the previous step to serve the incoming request by giving the address of backend servers. The how to give the backend servers is already given. That is nothing but proxy passing. So I have already have the backend service available. So by the way, backend service means these are the one backend services which Nginx will cater the request into. I'll be creating that now. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to come here, uncomment this. My backend is already set up with localhost 8009. I'll be saving this. I'll set up the backend service now. Let me go to the integrations page. This part is done. Next step is to create NGINX script.js file with the following content. So let me copy this, create it, and the content of the file should be this. Yep, I got the nginx.conf in place. I got nginx script.js in place. Final step is create docker compose.yaml with the following content. So let me copy this. This is my file name, docker compose.yaml. Let me create it. Vi docker compose.yaml, and now let me copy this and paste it. So here there is an instruction: replace path to server.crt and path to server.key with the absolute path to your certificate and key. Now let's save this file. If you see now, I have said that already I need to have the server certificate and server key file, right? So I need to give the absolute path now. So this is my path, and my file name is myserver.crt, myserver.key. Let me edit that docker compose.yaml. Only this part. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let me carefully do this. myserver.crt and this one. myserver.key. Please note that do not touch this part. This has already been set and there is no need to modify this part. And also we need to replace, as the instruction clearly says, we'll have to replace this as well. Yes, so my home direction has been given. I strongly don't recommend to use the tilde option here, because if some other user have logged in, then it could potentially create the problem. So it's on the safer side. It would be better to give the absolute path. I have created the pool files nginx nginx.conf, server.crt and myserver.key, and I have successfully mapped it. So this, let me save this file. Now next step is start the nginx container by executing docker compose up-d from the working directory. So this is my working directory, but before proceeding to that step, let me just make sure that my nginx configuration and all is proper. So this looks good to me. Please note that the server is actively listening on port 19443 on SSL. Please feel free to change this if you want some other port of your choice. I've given the sensor ID, I've given the hotel exporter endpoint, and I've also given the proxy pass to my backend server. Yes, I'm all good. Now let me come back and execute this command, docker compose up-d from my working directory. This is the command. Let me see. Oops, sorry. Yes, it says that this is running. Now let us check this by doing the docker ps-a. Oops. Should I use a do? Yes, it clearly says that this is the name that we have given, Ashraf's hotel collector, and then this is the image nginx hotel. Yes, we have successfully got the container up and running. In order to down it, one can use the docker compose down command. Now let's ensure that this is really working. As I said, let me just double check on my docker compose. Yes, we have mounted it to our host network, which means in the port 19443 it should be able to accept the request https localhost 19443 test testing underscore nginx, whatever the path, and let me try the request. I got 200 OK response. Now it's time to check whether the hotel trace has been generated or not. Yes, so this is the Azure traffic collection service. So let me look at the logs of it. Looking for the last 2 minutes should be sufficient. Yes, I got the trace successfully. Testing NGINX, this was the curl that I had used, and I got the trace successfully, which has captured the request response headers along with the request body. I have not used any request body, but yes, so this has been captured. Thank you. That's all for this integration tutorial.